Legend has it that one day, who will use the power of the trident.
It's the exact spot that Volko gave me my first swimming lesson.
I already know how to swim.
Not even close. He spent his entire life training.
My parents made me what I am. I am the protector of the deep.
In this trident resides the power of Atlantis. In their own hands, it would bring destruction, would unite above and below.
You must stop him.
And how do you propose we do that?
By retrieving the like it or not.
You believed you'd be the one to unite our two worlds.
Something more.
But what could be greater than a king?
What if the true king of Atlantis had been living among humans all along? From breathtaking underwater battles to hidden facts you probably missed, Aquaman Fact 2018 is packed with action and surprises. Welcome to Kako Film, where movie reviews and amazing facts bring every film to life. Aquaman 2018 is an American superhero film based on the DC Comics character Arthur Curry, also known as Aquaman. The movie was produced by DC Films, Warner Brothers Pictures, and the Safran Company. It is the sixth film in the DC Extended Universe, DCEU. The film was directed by James Wan and written by David Leslie Johnson, Mickey Goldrick, and Will Beall. Jason Momoa plays the lead role as Arthur Curry, also known as Aquaman. The story follows Arthur as he discovers his true destiny and sets out to become the rightful ruler of the underwater kingdom of Atlantis. Along the way, he must stop his half brother, King Orm, who plans to unite the seven underwater kingdoms and wage war against the surface world. The movie also stars Amber Heard, Willem Dafoe, Patrick Wilson, Dolph Lundgren, Yahya Abdul Mateen II, and Nicole Kidman in important roles. The idea of making an Aquaman movie first began in 2004, but the project did not move forward for many years. After the success of Man of Steel in 2013 and the expansion of the DC Extended Universe, Warner Brothers decided to develop the film more seriously. In August 2014, two different writers, Wilball and Kurt Johnstad, were hired to write separate versions of the script. The studio later chose to move forward with Wilball's version. In April 2015, James Wan officially joined the project as director. By July 2016, the movie entered full production with the final screenplay being developed further by David Leslie Johnson, Mac Goldrick, and Will Beall. Most of the main cast was announced during 2016 and early 2017. Filming officially began in May 2017 in Australia, mainly at Village Roadshow Studios on the Gold Coast in Queensland. Additional filming and production work also took place in Canada, Italy, and Morocco. The movie finished filming in October 2017 because much of the story takes place underwater. The filmmakers relied heavily on advanced visual effects and computer generated imagery (CGI). Multiple visual effects companies worked together to create the underwater kingdoms, sea creatures, giant battles, realistic hair movement underwater, and many other spectacular visual scenes. These effects helped bring the fantasy world of Atlantis to life in a realistic and visually stunning way. Aquaman had its world premiere in London on November 26, 2018. It was later released in theaters across the United States on December 21st, 2018. After its release, the movie received mixed to positive reviews from critics. While some reviewers had issues with certain parts of the story, many praised the film's exciting action scenes, breathtaking underwater visuals, colorful world building, impressive special effects, and Jason Momoa's performance as Aquaman. The movie became a massive box office success, earning approximately $1.152 billion worldwide. It became the highest grossing film in the DC Extended Universe and also became the highest grossing movie ever based on a DC Comics character at the time. It was also the fifth highest grossing film of 2018 and ranked among the highest grossing movies in history when it was released. Due to its huge success, Warner Brothers decided to continue Aquaman's story. A sequel titled Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom was released on December 2023. In addition, an animated mini-series called Aquaman, King of Atlantis was released in October 2021. Although the animated series is not part of the main movie storyline, it takes place after the events of the first Aquaman film and expands the adventures of Atlantis. In 1985, in the state of Maine, a lighthouse keeper named Thomas Riritina rescues a badly injured woman named Atlanta during a violent storm. Atlanta is actually the queen of the underwater kingdom of Atlantis. As Thomas helps her recover, the two fall in love and eventually have a son named Arthur. Arthur is born with special abilities, including the power to communicate with sea creatures. One day, Atlantean soldiers arrive to take Atlanta back to Atlantis. She had escaped an arranged marriage with the Atlantean king, and her people have finally found her. To protect Thomas and Arthur from being harmed, Atlanta chooses to return to Atlantis. Before leaving, she promises Thomas that she will come back when the time is right. She also asks her trusted advisor, Nuidis Volko, develop the script to secretly train Arthur so he can learn about his Atlantean powers and become a skilled warrior. As Arthur grows older, Valko trains him in combat and teaches him about Atlantis. However, Arthur learns that Atlanta was sentenced to death because she fell in love with a human and gave birth to a half human child. Heartbroken and angry, Ar- Arthur rejects Atlantis and decides to live among humans instead. Years later, Arthur becomes known around the world as Aquaman because of his incredible strength and his ability to control sea life. About a year after the defeat of Steppenwolf, Arthur stops a group of pirates who hijack a Russian submarine. During the battle, the pirate leader Jesse Kane is killed after becoming trapped by a torpedo. Arthur refuses to save him because Jesse had murdered innocent people. Jesse's son, David Kane, blames Arthur for his father's death and swears to take revenge. Meanwhile, Arthur's younger half brother, King Ormarius, has become the ruler of Atlantis after the death of their father, King Orvax. Orm believes that humans are destroying the oceans with pollution and wants to unite all the underwater kingdoms to declare war on the surface world. If he succeeds in bringing the kingdoms together, he will earn the title of Ocean Master and command the most powerful underwater army on Earth. Amam meets with King Nereus of the kingdom of Zibel and tries to convince him to join his plan. During their meeting, the submarine that Arthur had saved earlier attacks them. The submarine is now controlled by David Kane. Orm uses the attack to convince Nereus that humans are dangerous. It is later revealed that Orm secretly hired Jesse and David Kane to attack the submarine in the first place so he could gain support for his war. Orm also provides David with an advanced Atlantean battle suit and secretly orders him to kill Arthur. Nereus' daughter, Princess Emma, refuses to support Orm's plan and instead seeks Arthur's help. After Orm causes a massive tsunami that nearly kills Thothmes Curry, Arthur agrees to travel with Mera to Atlantis. There, Vulk tells Arthur that the only way to stop Orm is to find the legendary trident of Atlan, the magical weapon once used by Atlantis' first king. Whoever possesses the trident is the rightful ruler of Atlantis. While searching for the trident, Arthur and Mera are attacked by Orm's soldiers. Arthur is captured and forced into a duel with Orm. During the fight, Orm blames Arthur for their mother's death and nearly kills him. Before Orm can finish him, Mera rescues Arthur and the two escape. Their search leads them to the lost kingdom of the deserters, hidden beneath the Sahara Desert. There they discover a hidden message that gives them clues leading to Sicily, where they uncover the final location of the legendary trident. At the same time, Orm arrests Valko for helping Arthur. He also forces the peaceful kingdom of the fishermen to join his alliance after killing their king and threatening the royal family. Meanwhile, David Kane upgrades his new armor and gives himself the name Black Manta. He attacks Arthur in a fierce battle but is eventually defeated. Arthur and Mera continue their journey across the ocean in a stolen boat. They are attacked by terrifying sea creatures known as the Trench, but a mysterious underwater portal carries them to a hidden sea located deep inside the earth. There, Arthur is reunited with his mother Atlana, who is actually alive. Developed the script and later it was rewritten. She had escaped her execution years earlier but became trapped in this hidden world and was never able to return home. Arthur then faces the mighty Karatan, the legendary guardian of Atlan's trident. Instead of fighting with anger, Arthur proves that he is worthy of becoming king. The Karatan accepts him, allowing Arthur to claim the powerful trident of Atlan. The magical weapon grants him complete control over the seas and confirms him as the true heir to Atlantis. Back in Atlantis, Orm prepares his armies to attack the kingdom of the Brine and fully establish himself as ocean master. Arthur arrives with an enormous army of sea creatures, including the Karatan and the trench monsters. A massive underwater battle begins between the two brothers and their armies. When the Atlanteans see Arthur holding the trident of Atlan, they realize he is the true king chosen by Atlantis' first ruler. Many of Orm's soldiers immediately stop fighting and support Arthur instead. Arthur and Orm fight one final duel. Arthur defeats his half brother but chooses to spare his life instead of killing him. Orm finally accepts defeat after discovering that Arthur rescued their mother, Atlana. He peacefully surrenders and accepts imprisonment. After the battle, Atlana is reunited with Thomas Curry after many years apart. Arthur finally accepts his destiny and takes his rightful place as the king of Atlantis in the mid credit scene. The injured Black Manta is rescued by Dr. Stephen Shin, a marine scientist who has spent years trying to prove that Atlantis exists. Black Manta agrees to help Shin find Atlantis if Shin helps him continue his revenge against Arthur. The leading man, Jason Momoa, as Arthur Curry. Jason Momoa was cast as Arthur Curry, the titular character of Aquaman, marking a pivotal moment in the actor's career trajectory. The casting of Momoa represented a deliberate choice by director James Wan to establish the character as a fresh, charismatic interpretation of the DC Comics superhero, having previously appeared in brief roles within the DC Extended Universe, particularly in Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice, and Justice League. Momoa had already begun establishing his presence within the universe. However, The Aquaman solo film provided an opportunity to develop the character more fully and showcase the physical and emotional range required for the leading role. Momoa brought substantial star power and a distinctive screen presence to the character. His background in action oriented television roles, most notably in Game of Thrones, had already demonstrated his capability to carry an action heavy narrative while maintaining charismatic appeal. The actor's physicality perfectly aligned with the requirements of playing an underwater superhero, and his improvisational charm became instrumental in establishing Arthur Curry as an approachable, humorous protagonist within the larger DC's extended universe framework. The heroine, Amber Heard as Mera Amber Heard, was cast as Mera Aquaman's love interest following negotiation that began in January 2016 and were confirmed 2 months later. Heard's casting brought a strong female presence to the film, positioning Mera not merely as a supporting romantic interest but as a capable warrior and integral participant in the narrative. The actress's casting was particularly significant as it represented an effort to create meaningful female characters within the DC extended universe at a time when representation was being increasingly scrutinized. Heard's portrayal of Mera combined elegance with warrior sensibility, presenting a character who possessed agency and fighting ability alongside her role as a love interest to the protagonist. Her presence in the film contributed to the dynamic between Arthur and the underwater world, serving as both guide and romantic motivation throughout the narrative. The chemistry between Momoa and Heard became central to the film's emotional core, and their scenes together provided moments of vulnerability amid the action heavy sequences. The antagonist, Patrick Wilson Patrick Wilson as King or Patrick Wilson was confirmed to play the villainous Ocean Master, the half brother of Aquaman, on December 12, 2016. Wilson's casting as King or Marius represented a strategic choice to bring credibility and nuance to the film's primary antagonist. Rather than casting a one dimensional villain, the production sought an actor capable of portraying a complex character whose motivations, while ultimately destructive, possessed internal logic and emotional resonance. Wilson's established career as a respected character actor provided the requisite gravitas for the role. His performance would later be noted as an attempt to bring complexity to the villain, those critics observed that the character occasionally veered into theatrical excess. Nevertheless, Wilson's casting ensured that the conflict between Arthur and Orm carried genuine dramatic weight, transforming what could have been a simple good versus evil dynamic into a more complicated exploration of family power and responsibility. The mentor, Willem Dafoe, as Vulko in April 2016. Willem Dafoe was cast in an undisclosed role, later revealed to be Nuidis Valko. Dafoe's casting brought an actor of considerable prestige and experience to the supporting role of Valko, Aquaman's and mentor figure. Aquaman's guide filmography, marked by both critically acclaimed performances and significant commercial success, ensured that the mentorship aspect of Arthur's journey possessed substantial weight. Vulko serves as the character who bridges Arthur's dual heritage and introduces him to the larger world of Atlantis. Defoe's portrayal of this character grounded the fantastical elements of the underwater realm in emotional authenticity. The actor's ability to convey wisdom and paternal care simultaneously added depth to scenes depicting Arthur's training and spiritual development. Additionally, Dafoe was digitally de-aged for flashback scenes, allowing the production to maintain continuity while depicting Valko at different points in his own timeline. The royal mother, Nicole Kidman, as Atlana Nicole Kidman, entered talks to play Queen Atlana, and 2 months later, Kidman confirmed her participation in the film. The casting of Kidman as Arthur's mother represented a significant acquisition of star power for what amounts to a supporting role. Kidman's presence in the film elevated the entire production and provided a bridge between Arthur's dual worlds, his human mother realm and his Atlantean heritage. Kidman's portrayal of Queen Atlanta, while limited in screen time, proved memorable and emotionally impactful. Her scenes with both Temuera Morrison playing Arthur's human father and Jason Momoa playing Arthur himself provided crucial emotional anchors for the narrative. Kidman's established reputation for award winning performances ensured that her presence in the film garnered significant attention and prestige, making the opening sequences, which prominently feature her character, particularly compelling. The political dynasty. Dolph Lundgren as King Nereus. By April 12th, Dolph Lundgren was cast to play Nereus, King of Zebel. Lundgren's casting brought the action film credibility of an actor with decades of experience in physically demanding roles. King Nereus, as the father of Mera and ruler of one of Atlantis' tributary kingdoms, required an actor capable of conveying both authority and the kind of pragmatic uncertainty that characterizes a political leader operating within complex diplomatic circumstances. Nereus is the king of the Atlantean tribe of Xabel and Mera's father, whom Orm tricks into an alliance through false pretenses. Lundgren's portrayal captured this duality, a leader who believes himself to be acting in the best interests of his people while being manipulated by a more ruthless political actor. The actor's substantial physical presence and distinctive voice contributed to making Nereus a memorable figure despite the character's relatively limited screen time. The antagonistic force. Yaya Abdul Mateen II as Black Manta on January 31, 2017. Yaya Abdul Mateen II was added to the cast as Black Manta, Aquaman's archenemy in the comics. Abdul Mateen casting brought a rising talent to the role of David Kane, a character who serves as both personal nemesis and symbolic representation of human exploitation of oceanic resources. The actor's relatively youth and contemporary star status contrasted with the more established actors filling other major roles, positioning him as a potential future fixture within the DC extended universe. David Kane-less Black Manta is characterized as a ruthless pirate and a high seas mercenary with a flair for creating deadly technological innovations. Abdul Mateen's interpretation of this character added a layer of genuine menace, presenting a villain whose motivations rooted in personal tragedy and disillusionment gave his antagonism weight beyond simple villainy. The Paternal Foundation. Temuera Morrison as Thomas Curry by February 2017. New Zealand actor Temuera Morrison had entered talks to play Thomas Curry, developed the script, and Aquaman's human father. Morrison's casting established the human side of Arthur's heritage through a character who represents the ordinary world from which the protagonist emerges. Morrison's established filmography and his that particular talent for conveying emotional depth through understated performances made him ideal for this role. Thomas Curry serves as the emotional center that grounds Arthur's journey in human values and experience. The scenes between Morrison and Momoa establish the importance of familial connection and the struggles of a human parent attempting to raise a child of dual origin in a dangerous world. Morrison's his presence ensures that the underwater fantasy elements remain tethered to emotional stakes that viewers can immediately recognize and relate to. Supporting military and political Kasludi Lin was cast in the film on May 15, 2017, taking on the role of Captain Merc, leader of the Men of War, Atlantis' frontline military force. Lin's casting brought an actor capable of portraying authority and military bearing to this role, contributing to the development of Atlantis as a fully realized civilization with distinct hierarchical and military structures. Michael Beach played Jesse Kane, Manta's father, establishing the personal backstory that contextualizes Black Manta's vendetta against Aquaman. Beach's appearance, though brief, carries significant dramatic weight. in establishing the emotional motivations that drive one of the film's primary antagonistic forces. Randall Park played Dr. Stephen Shin, a marine biologist character whose role in the narrative serves to explore the intersection between human scientific inquiry and the hidden underwater world. Graham McTavish played King Atlan, a character depicted in flashback sequences as the ancient ruler of Atlantis. McTavish's casting brought a Scottish actor whose distinctive voice and commanding presence proved effective in establishing the historical weight and magical history that underpins the film's world building. Voice acting and animated elements, the film employed several celebrated voice actors to bring depth to non human characters and entities. Julie Andrews voiced the Karathan, a powerful sentient sea creature that guards the trident of Atlan. The production team specifically sought a legendary English actress for the role, with Andrews as their first choice. Julie Andrews recorded her Karathan voice part in a single session, demonstrating the efficiency with which the production engaged its celebrity talent for voice work. John Rhys Davies provided the voice for the Brian King, while Jimon Hounsou voiced King Riku. These voice performances contributed to the establishment of Atlantean society as a fully realized civilization with multiple kingdoms, each with distinct leadership and cultural identity. Ensemble chemistry and balance, thus, casting of Aquaman 2018 represented a careful balance between established prestigious actors and rising talents. The inclusion of Oscar winners like Nicole Kidman and seasoned character actors like Willem Dafoe and Patrick Wilson, alongside relative newcomers like Yaya Abdul Mateen too, created a dynamic ensemble capable of both dramatic credibility and action-oriented spectacle. The film's narrative structure required the ensemble to function both independently and cohesively. Jason Momoa's protagonist needed to carry significant portions of the film while being supported by actors capable of grounding the fantastical elements. The production's decisions regarding casting ensured that even characters with limited screen time, such as Nicole Kidman's Atlanta or Graham McTavish's King Atlan, made meaningful contributions to the overall narrative and thematic development. The casting choices reflected director James Wan's understanding that superhero films require more than action choreography and visual effects. They require compelling performances from actors capable of bringing authenticity to characters operating in impossible circumstances. By assembling a cast that blended A list talent with emerging stars and character actors of various specialties, the production positioned itself to appeal to multiple audience demographics while maintaining the dramatic credibility necessary for the DC Extended Universe's more serious minded franchise approach. Development and pre production. A long journey to the screen, the journey of bringing Aquaman to the big screen proved to be one of the longest and most tumultuous in DC Extended Universe history. Development for an Aquaman film began as early as 2004 when FilmJerk.com reported that Sunrise Entertainment's Alan and Peter Reiche planned to bring the character to the screen for Warner Brothers, with Robert Ben Garant writing the screenplay. However, this initial attempt ultimately fell through without materializing into a production. In 2007, Warner Brothers shifted its focus to developing a Justice League film. Instead, with Michelle and Kieran Mulroney hired to write the screenplay. The project, reportedly titled Justice League Mortal, would have featured Aquaman's cinematic debut, would have featured part of an ensemble film. Director George Miller signed on to direct this ambitious undertaking later that year. However, the entire project was cancelled following production delays that stemmed from the 2007 8 Writers Guild of America strike, derailing what could have been the character's first appearance on screen. Prior to the film's cancellation in 2008, actor Santiago Cabrera had already been cast as Aquaman, but he never got the opportunity to bring the character to life in this iteration. In July 2009, the character it was revisited when it was reported that Aquaman was in development at Leonardo DiCaprio's Appian Way Productions with Warner Brothers. Chairman and CEO Barry Meyer confirming that an Aquaman film was actively being developed. However, this project also failed to gain sufficient traction to move forward into full production. The character's development prospects improved significantly following the 2013 release of Man of Steel. A source from Warner Brothers revealed to the Wrap that the studio was discussing future films beyond Superman, mentioning more Man of Steel movies, a Superman, Batman film, a Wonder Woman film, and an Aquaman film. Around this time, Jeff Johns, the chief creative officer of DC Entertainment, told Variety that Aquaman was a priority character for the studio. On August 12, 2014, Warner Brothers officially announced that it had hired screenwriters Will Biol and Kurt Johnstad to pen separate scripts for the film. The production operated on dual tracks with the intention that only the strong script would ultimately move forward. This competitive approach to script development was intended to ensure the highest quality screenplay possible. Around the same period, Peter Jackson was approached twice to direct the film, but he declined both opportunities. In April 2015, The Hollywood Reporter reported that director James Wan was emerging as the frontrunner to helm the project. Wan, known for his work on the Conjuring films and his direction of Furious 7, was recognized as a director capable of handling both intimate character moments and large scale action sequences. In June 2015, Wan was confirmed to direct and was tasked with overseeing the screenplay by Kurt Johnstad. An interesting decision point came in when was given the choice between directing The Flash or Aquaman for the DC Extended Universe. One ultimately selected Aquaman as he felt The Flash had already been done before in various formats. In November 2015, David Leslie Johnson K. Goldrick was hired to write the script, though there was initial ambiguity about whether his would be a separate script or if he would work with John Stad. Previous script plans were ultimately scrapped, and Wan and Johns planned to move forward with a new script written by Biol. Subsequently, Johnson McGoldrick was brought back to the project to rewrite Biol's script, demonstrating the iterative and collaborative nature of the screenplay development process. In March 2016, it was announced that the events of Aquaman would be set after the 2017 Justice League film, positioning it as a follow-up rather than a prequel or standalone story. This timing would allow the character to have established himself within the GZ extended universe before his solo adventure. Wan confirmed that cinematographer Don Burgess, who had previously collaborated with Wan on The Conjuring 2, would serve as the cinematographer for Aquaman, establishing continuity with their successful working relationship. Pre production officially began in Australia in late November 2016, with the production preparing for the extensive shooting schedule that would follow. The decision to shoot primarily in Australia proved significant as it would provide access to village roadshow studios and the diverse landscapes required for both the underwater kingdom of Atlantis and the various earthbound locations needed for the narrative. The casting process for Aquaman was conducted throughout 2016 and early 2017, assembling a diverse ensemble that combined established stars with rising talent. In October 2014, Warner Bros. Announced Jason Momoa as the star of the film. Momoa had previously appeared as the character in Batman v Superman. Dawn of Justice and was set to reprise the role in Justice League before his solo film. On January 13, 2016, The Hollywood Reporter announced that Amber Heard had entered negotiations to play Mera, Aquaman's love interest and a crucial character in the narrative. Her casting was confirmed 2 months later. In April 2016, William Dafoe was cast in an undisclosed role, later revealed to be Nuidi's Volko, the wise mentor figure who would guide Arthur Curry through his journey. On December 12, 2016, it was confirmed that Patrick Wilson would play Marius, Aquaman's half brother and the film's primary antagonist, as the Ocean Master. On January 31, 2017, Yahya Abdul Mateen too was added to the cast as Black Manta, Arthur's archenemy. The same day, press reports noted that Nicole Kidman had entered negotiations to play Queen Atlanta, Arthur's mother. 2 months later, Kidman confirmed her participation. By February 2017, New Zealand actor Temuera Morrison had entered talks to play Thomas Curry, Arthur's human father. On April 12, Dolph Lundgren was cast as Nereus, king of the Atlantean tribe of Zebel and Mera's father. Ludi Lin joined the cast on May 15, 2017, taking on the role of Captain Mercer, commander of Atlantis' military forces. Almost 2 weeks later, Michael Beach, who had previously voiced Devil Ray in Justice League Unlimited, was cast as Black Manta's father. In October 2017, Graham McTavish revealed his involvement in the film, though his role was kept secret at the time. In April 2018, Randall Park was cast as Dr. Stephen Shin, a marine biologist character. In July, Jimon Hounsou, Natalia Safran, and Sophia Forrest were cast as the Fisherman King, Fisherman Queen, and Fisherman Princess, respectively. Finally, in November 2018, later it was written, it was revealed that legendary actress Julie Andrews would provide the voice of Karathan, a mystical sea creature and guardian of the Trident principal photography. From concept to capture principal photography for Aquaman began on May 13, 2017 under the working title Ahab. The production was primarily based at Village Roadshow Studios on the Gold Coast in Queensland, Australia, which provided state of the art facilities for the underwater sequences and other complex visual effects work. However, significant and echoes of filming also took place at additional locations across multiple countries. Between May and August 2017, location shooting occurred on the Australian Gold Coast, including Main Beach, Coomera, Southport, and Amity Point on North Stradbroke Island, as well as Hastings Point in New South Wales. These locations provide the natural settings required for both underwater themed scenes and the contemporary world of Arthur Curry. The choice to film extensively in Australia was strategic, combining access to advanced facilities with natural landscapes that could be utilized for production. Filming of the lighthouse set at Hastings Point began in August 2017 and concluded later that month. This location filming proved crucial for establishing the emotional foundation of the film, depicting Arthur's childhood and his relationship with his human father. Additional filming took place in Newfoundland and Labrador, providing diverse landscape options for the production. Willem Dafoe completed his scenes by late September, while Patrick Wilson wrapped in October after 115 days of principal photography. Filming expanded to international locations in October 2017, with production taking place in Morocco, specifically in the cities of Merzouga and Erfoud. These desert locations provided the setting for the Kingdom of the Deserter sequence, an important plot point in the narrative. Director James Wan acknowledged the complexity of shooting underwater sequences, stating that the underwater world is super complicated and it's not an easy shoot, highlighting the technical challenges that the production encountered throughout filming. Principal photography formally wrapped in October 2017, concluding after several months of intensive shooting across multiple continents. The productions had successfully captured all necessary footage to bring James Wan's vision of the underwater world to the screen, though the true work of transforming this footage into the finished film would occur during the post production and visual effects. Creating an underwater world post production on Aquaman proved to be an extraordinarily complex and technically demanding undertaking. Editor Kirk Maury, James Wan's five-time collaborator, assembled assembled the raw footage into a cohesive narrative. Two-time Academy Award winner Charles Gibson and Kelvin McIlvaine served as visual effects supervisors. Later, it was rewritten. Overseeing the massive undertaking of creating the underwater world and its inhabitants, on November 3, 2018, one announced that post production had officially been completed. Later, it was rewritten just weeks before the film's theatrical premiere. The extensive post production schedule was necessary because of the unprecedented number of visual effects shots required for the film. Approximately 300 visual effects shots appear in the finished movie, representing a substantial portion of the film's runtime. This massive visual effects effort was distributed among several leading visual effects studios, each specializing in different aspects of the film's visual requirements. Industrial Light and Magic ILM served as the primary visual effects company and handled the creation of Atlantis, all CGI animals, the Karathan, and the climactic final battle. Jeff White served as the VFX supervisor for ILM. The studio's work on Atlantis was particularly impressive, with the environment team creating over 200 buildings, including the signature jellyfish shaped structures that became iconic elements of the underwater kingdom. ILM laid over 7,000 buildings across districts, covering almost 600 square miles to provide visual continuity as the action traveled through the city. The underwater ships were designed to move organically, being modeled after creature movements. For the entrance to Atlantis sequence alone, the team built over up 150,000 ships to fill the traffic lanes leading into the city. For underwater sequences, the actors were shot using a drive for wet technique on specially designed tuning fork rigs created by the VFX team. These rigs simulated the movements that would occur underwater, allowing actors to perform their scenes against physical sets. Later, during post production, the bodies of the actors were replaced with digital doubles who were then incorporated into the underwater environments. This combination of practical performance and digital enhancement created believable underwater action sequences. Approximately 700 shots in the film required high detailed hair simulations, representing one of the film's most technically challenging aspects. ILM had to significantly improve its hair simulation software to handle the unique aspects of hair flowing underwater. Normally, hair simulations use guide strands to define the movement of groups of hair strands, but this approach did not produce satisfying results in an underwater setting. Ultimately, ILM simulated individual hair strands, which required intensive computational resources. Additionally, Director 1 wanted the ability to artistically direct the hair when purely physical simulations resulted in undesirable visual results. ILM delivered 670 hair simulation shots for the final film. Veta Digital, renowned for its work on major visual effects projects, handled most of the digital de-aging involved in the film. The studio digitally de-aged Nicole Kidman and Tamara Morrison for flashback sequences showing their characters at younger ages. DNAG digitally de-aged Willem Dafoe for scenes depicting his character Nudis Valco training young Arthur, ensuring visual continuity between flashback sequences and the present day story. Other visual effects studios contributed specialized work to various sequences. Digital Domain under VFX supervisor Jay Barton created the Dead King's Island environment. For this sequence, Actors were filmed in a pool of water against digital domain, adding CGI extensions, waterfalls, mountains, and dinosaurs in post production. Most waterfalls in the sequence were created using Houdini software, while some were constructed using practical elements such as pouring salt and glass beads. Digital Domain delivered 19 to 20 shots for this complex sequence. Method Studios, with VFX supervisors David Nelson and Craig Wentworth, handled the Sicily fight sequence between Arthur, Mera, and Black Manta, as well as Arthur's encounter with the Karatan in the Well of the Souls and his acquisition of Atlan's Trident. For the Sicily fight, the team built the main square of the Italian village and terracotta tiled roof set pieces backed with blue screen, and also created a completely CGI village based on scans and documentation of the real location. For the Well of the Soul sequence, Momoa was filmed dry for wet on rigs simulating underwater movement, but artists ultimately replaced most of his performance with a digital body double when the rigging felt restrictive. A specially designed 700 frames second shot was used in the scene where the camera travels through Arthur's eyes. Rodeo FX worked on two key sequences with Sebastien Moreau as VFX supervisor. For the aquarium that young Arthur visits early in the film, Rodeo FX used simulations and algorithms for realistic fish behavior. They created hard and soft corals by developing a colonization growth system and procedural stem and tentacle generation tools. For the Atlantis ruins beneath the desert, they employed a Lego like approach to layer the environment with sand, dust, and rocks that would realistically respond to character interactions. Then sculpted ruined buildings, bridges, towers, statues, and temples which were textured and shaded to provide visual depth. Sunline VFX delivered 450 shots, with Brian Hirota serving as VFX supervisor. Later, it was rewritten. The main sequences they produced included the lighthouse and its surrounding environment, the Aquaman title card, Aquaman pushing the submarine to the surface and rescuing sailors, Orm's tidal wave, Black Manta's transactions with Orm and Arthur, and Mera's visit to the Kingdom of the Trench. For the title card, the team simulated up to 60,000 fish, building on work completed by Rodeo FX. The tidal wave sequence was realized through large scale simulations integrated with day for night footage, blue screen work for actors, a truck on a rotisserie rig, and VFX simulations for debris. For the lighthouse, a full size structure with the base of the lighthouse tower was constructed by the VFX team, with additional digital extensions completing the tower and dock. Ardigel, the script, and later Snow Globe was created for a sequence transitioning from the lighthouse's living room to a fully CGI winter coastline. The collective efforts of these various visual effects studios represented an unprecedented undertaking to create a fully realized underwater world within a superhero film. Some additional detail of blood was removed from the UK version of the film to achieve a lower age rating, demonstrating how post production decisions were sometimes made to optimize the film's market accessibility, music, and soundtrack. Bringing the ocean to life on March 7, 2018, Rupert Gregson Williams was announced as the composer for Aquaman. Gregson Williams had previously composed the score for Wonder Woman, the fourth film in the DC Extended Universe, bringing established experience with the superhero genre to the project. His work on Aquaman would need to match the scale and ambition of the film's visuals while establishing memorable musical themes for the underwater kingdom and its inhabitants. The soundtrack was released by Tower Music on December 14, 2018, providing a comprehensive audio companion to the film. The album features two original songs alongside Gregson Williams' orchestral score. The first original song, titled Everything I Need, was performed by American musician Skylar Grey, written by Gray and Elliot Taylor. The second original song, Ocean to Ocean, was performed by American rapper Pitbull featuring Rhea, written by Pitbull, George Bechara, Bianca Oxel, and Gabriel Dunn. Notably, Ocean to Ocean samples Toto's iconic 1982 song Africa, written by Jeff Porcaro and David Paich, who received co writing credit for the sample. Additionally, Joseph Bishara, director James Wan's frequent collaborator, composed a piece called Trench Engaged, specifically for the trench sequence, contributing to the film's musical diversity. Bishara and Wan have worked together on numerous horror and thriller projects, and his contribution to Aquaman demonstrated his contribution to Aquaman trusted the trusted relation between director and composer that Wan values in his productions. The soundtrack composition proved essential in establishing the emotional tone of the film. Music had to convey both the wonder and majesty of the underwater kingdom while also supporting the action sequences and character relationships. The combination of orchestral the combination and contemporary songs created a hybrid musical approach that appealed to both traditional superhero film audiences and younger viewers who might connect with the pop influenced songs. Marketing and pre release promotion studios' marketing strategy for Aquaman began well before the film's theatrical release. In March 2017, before filming had even commenced, the first look at Aquaman was shown during CinemaCon in Las Vegas, with Jason Momoa introducing a video of director James Wan displaying concept art and a sizzle reel. This early promotional excitement among industry professionals and serious film enthusiasts. Later in July 2017, the film's footage made its debut at San Diego Comic Con, with Momoa presenting a teaser during the Warner Brothers panel. Van presented the footage, stating that in a lot of ways, this is an origin story, signaling the film's narrative approach to the character. In April 2018, at CinemaCon, another teaser with new footage was shown by Wan and Momoa, joined on stage by cast members Amber Heard, Patrick Wilson, and Yahya Abdul Mateen Tutur. Wan teased the central conflict between Arthur and Ocean Master, describing it as almost a very classic Shakespearean story about brother from another world versus brother from another world. And it really is a classic story of sibling rivalry. On June 11, 2018, the film's first trailer was previewed at Cine Europe. In July 2018, the first full trailer was released at San Diego Comic Con and was widely considered the best received trailer of the film's pre release promotional cycle. The trailer was subsequently attached to theatrical showings of major summer blockbusters, including Mission Impossible, Fallout, The Meg, The Predator, Venom, and First Man, ensuring broad audience exposure. The cast appeared on television to promote the film, with the entire ensemble appearing as guests on Conan, with Conan O'Brien during San Diego Comic Con on July 22nd, developed the script, and later it was rewritten. By late August, the studio conducted early test screenings with mixed reactions shared on social media, with audiences generally describing the film as good but not exceptional, providing useful feedback for any final adjustments to the film during post production. On October 5th, 2018, a 5-minute extended video was released by Warner Bros., providing additional footage beyond what had been shown in the teaser trailers. The first official television spot aired on October 16, followed by a second spot on November 1. During November, character posters were released for Aquaman, Mera, Black Manta, Ocean Master, King Nereus, Queen Atlana, and Nuidis Valko, each highlighting the visual design of the characters. On November 7th, the studio announced a comprehensive promotion tour scheduled to take place during November and December, including fan events, screenings, and premieres in Beijing, London, New York City, Manila, Los Angeles, Miami, Gold Coast, Sydney, and Honolulu. Additionally, the film would be screened on December 7, 2018, during Brazil Comic Con in Sao Paulo. A behind the scenes featurette was released featuring footage not seen in mainstream trailers, giving audiences insight into the production process. On November 19, the final trailer was released alongside the announcement of ticket sales. The same day, 30 minutes of footage was shown in China during the first stop of the film's promotion tour, generating rave reactions that provided early indication of the film's international appeal. Two main promotional posters were released depicting Aquaman and Mera in their iconic costumes. The film's financial success was substantially attributed to the studio's sophisticated marketing plan that attracted a broad demographic, particularly women, through advertising, social media, and promotional partnerships. This strategic approach to marketing would prove crucial to the film's ultimate box office dominance. Theatrical release. Bringing Aquaman to audiences, Aquaman had its world premiere at the Empire Leicester Square in London on November 26, 2018. The film was then released in the United States by Warner Bros. Pictures on December 21, 2018, positioning it for the lucrative holiday season box office period. The release date timing proved strategic as the Christmas season traditionally attracts strong audience attendance. On November 19, Atom Tickets announced that Amazon Prime members in the United States would have early access to tickets for a December 15 screening of the film at select AMC, Regal, National Amusements, and Arclight Cinemas locations. This early access program provided a competitive advantage to the film's opening and created a sense of exclusivity for Amazon Prime subscribers. The film had originally been scheduled for July 27, 2018, but was moved to October 5, 2018, before ultimately settling on its December 21 release date. These scheduling adjustments reflected the studio's strategic decisions about positioning the film and allowing additional production time to ensure the visual effects were completed to the highest possible standard. Home media release. Extending the film's lifecycle, Aquaman was released for digital download on March 5, 2019, allowing consumers to purchase and view the film on various digital platforms. The film subsequently became available on physical media formats on March 19, 2019, with releases on Blu ray, 4K, Blu ray Ultra HD, 3D Blu ray, and standard DVD. The home media release proved commercially successful. The film achieved an estimated total of $27.4 million in US DVD sales, while Blu ray sales reached an estimated total of $42.2 million, bringing in a combined total of $69.7 million in domestic video sales. This substantial home media performance indicated the film's broad appeal across different audience segments and viewing preferences. Director James Wan announced that there would not be a director's cut released despite the intense and lengthy post production process. This decision meant that the theatrical version that premiered in December 2018 would remain the only official cut of the film available to audiences. However, the visual effects for a potential director's cut had been created simultaneously with the theatrical cut during post production, indicating that an alternate cut had been considered and prepared. Box office performance. A billion-dollar juggernaut, the financial performance of Aquaman exceeded expectations and established it as a massive commercial success. Domestically, the film grossed $335. 1 million in the United States and Canada, while international territories contributed $816.9 million for a total worldwide gross of $1,152 billion. This represented an extraordinary achievement, particularly for a superhero film that had experienced significant development challenges before reaching production. On November 19, 2018, the day after announcing early Amazon screenings, Aquaman's first 24-hour pre-sale totals became the highest in the history of Atom Tickets, surpassing Avengers, Infinity War, and significantly outpacing Jumanji. Welcome to the Jungle, another film Amazon Prime had offered early to subscribers. The film made $2.9 million from the Amazon preview screenings at 1,225 theaters on December 15, higher than the $1. 86 million generated by Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle for its similar preview event. In the United States and Canada, Aquaman was released alongside Bumblebee Second Act and Welcome to Marwen. Initial tracking projections suggested the film would gross 65 $70 million in its opening weekend, with some forecasters predicting as high as $150 million over its first 5 days. The film made $27. Idean are the distributor executive into W Version Studio, 17 Amazon from Wendy Studio. Debuted at $67.9 million, was CC done in 6 million, including all early showings, topping the box office despite representing the lowest opening of the DC extended universe to that point. The film made $10. 9 million on Monday and $22 million on Christmas Day, joining an exclusive group of only 6 films to ever gross over $20 million on the holiday. Its 5 day total opening was $105.4 million, exceeding a narrator fees to $2.1 to reach itinerary scripting dared at 23%. It dropped those super. It earned $10.1 million on New Year's Eve and $16. 8 million on New Year's Day, demonstrating sustained audience interest throughout the holiday season. The film remained in first place for a third consecutive weekend, grossing $31 million. In its fourth weekend, it made $17.4 million but was dethroned by The Upside, which exceeded expectations with $20.4 million, becoming 60X Film's first number one box office opening. However, Aquaman crossed the $1 billion mark that same weekend after earning 758.3 million and 940 million worldwide in both its second and third weekends, respectively. Domestically, Aquaman's opening weekend audience was 60% male before declining to 56% male in the second weekend. During the second holiday weekend, women over 25 rated the film the highest at 84%, with Deadline numbering reporting that outnumbering dads in attendance 52%, that thus their Smitty thus is the superhero by a wide gap, 82% to 60%. This demographic shift demonstrated the film's broad appeal across gender lines and age groups. In China, the film was released 2 weeks prior to its US debut and demonstrated even stronger performance. The film made $24.6 million on its first day, representing 86% of the market share and setting a Warner Brothers opening day record in the country. It debuted at $93.6 million, marking the best ever opening for the DC Extended Universe, Warner Bros., and any December release in the country. It overtook the entire lifetime gross of Wonder Woman there in just 3 days. The script and later the film was just $12.99 million on Monday, crossing $17.7 million in just 4 days. By Thursday, its fifth day, the film had made $135.3 million, surpassing the lifetime totals of every solo Marvel Cinematic Universe film. As of April 4, 2019, the film had grossed $298.33 million in China, making it a dominant force in that critical market. In the Philippines, Aquaman became the biggest Warner Brothers and DC film of all time, with a cumulative gross of PHP 536.4 million, surpassing Justice League and becoming the sixth most successful film of all time in that country. The film became the highest grossing film of the decade in Romania. South Korea was the second biggest market with $39.1 million in box office revenue. Deadline Hollywood calculated the net profit of the film to be 260 zuz. 5 million when factoring together all expenses and revenues, making it the fifth most profitable release of 2018. The film also became the highest grossing installment in the DC Extended Universe, surpassing previous franchise records. It became the highest grossing film based on any DC character, exceeding all previous adaptations of DC Comics characters. Additionally, it ranked as Warner Brothers' third highest grossing film worldwide, behind Barbie and Harry Potter and The Deathly Hallows Part 2. Critical reception: mixed to positive reviews. aggregator website Rotten Tomatoes reported that 66% of 412 critics gave Aquaman a positive review, with an average rating of 610. The website's critical consensus stated Aquaman swims with its entertainingly ludicrous tide, offering up CGI superhero spectacle that delivers energetic action with an emphasis on good old fashioned fun. This summary captured the film's central appeal to audiences, prioritizing spectacle and entertainment value over strict narrative coherence. Metacritic surveyed 50 critics and assigned a weighted average score of 55 out of 100, indicating mixed or average reviews. This score reflected the polarized critical response, with critics divided on whether the film's ambitious visual spectacle and fun tone offset its narrative shortcomings. Audiences surveyed by CinemaScore gave the film an average grade of A minus on an A plus to F scale, demonstrating strong audience appreciation despite mixed critical reception. Those polled by Posttrack gave the film 4 out of 5 stars. Peter DeBruge of Variety criticized the dialogue but praised the production design, action scenes, and the final act writing. The biggest surprise here is how after the running time of a standard length film has elapsed, Aquaman suddenly kicks the movie up a level for the finale. At just the moment, this critic's eyes tend to glaze over in superhero movies. Typically, as the villain goes nuclear and a portal to another dimension opens, threatening to destroy the planet, one unleashes a massive deep sea battle on par with the Lord of the Rings. Germain Lucier of IO9 wrote, Aquaman is all about spectacle. It's a filled with ambition. It's always about trying to put the coolest, most imaginative sequence on screen at every single turn of the story, no matter what the cost. William Bibiani of The Rap called the film a weird and wonderful superhero adventure that strives and almost succeeds to be the most epic superhero movie ever made. The AV. Club's Ignati Vishnevetsky gave the movie a B minus grade, noting the film's embracing of its own absurdity. Aquaman is the sort of the movie that casts Dolph Lundgren as an undersea monarch who rides a giant seahorse. It is also the sort of movie that ends with a freeze frame and includes dialogue along the lines of you have our mother's trident, powerful but flawed like her, it owns up to its cheese. Peter Travers of Rolling Stone gave the film 2.5 stars out of 5, praising Van's ambition and Momoa's performance but criticizing the plot and dialogue. Aquaman is a mess of clashing tones and shameless silliness, but relief after all the franchise's recent superhero gloom. Chris Nashavetti of Entertainment Weekly graded the film a C minus, writing it can decide if it wants to be silly or serious, a superhero movie or a parody of one. Unfortunately, the bloated, waterlogged film is loaded with crummy CGI, cheesy costumes, and groaner dialogue delivered by actors who are too good to traffic in such nonsense. Michael Phillips of the Chicago Tribune gave the film 5 stars out of 4, criticizing the film's script and one's direction. Watching this movie is like spending 2 hours and 27 minutes staring at a gigantic aquarium full of digital sea creatures and actors on wires pretending to swim. Matt Zoller cites of Roger Ebert. Com gave Aquaman 3.5 out of 4 stars, positively comparing the film to SpongeBob SquarePants in its lack of concern for scientific accuracy, praising the treatment of characters crying as a normal byproduct of emotion and stating it takes skill to be as ridiculous as this movie. Aquaman feels simultaneously like a spoof and an operatic melodrama. Any film that can combine those modes is a force to be reckoned with. Awards and recognition, despite mixed critical reviews, Aquaman received numerous award nominations and wins. At the Alliance of Women Film Journalists Awards held on January 10, 2019, Nicole Kidman was nominated for Outstanding Achievement by a Woman in the Film Industry for her banner year of performances. The Dorian Awards designated Aquaman as the Campy Film of the Year on January 12, 2019, A recognition that acknowledged the film's embrace of over the top spectacle and theatrical elements. The Visual Effects Society Awards recognized the film's technical achievements with nominations for Outstanding Created Environment in a Photoreal Feature for Atlantis and Outstanding Virtual Cinematography in a Photoreal Project for Third Act Battle. The Makeup Artists and Hairstylists Guild Awards nominated the film for Best Special Makeup Effects on February 16, 2019. The Golden Reel Awards recognized the film's sound design with a nomination for feature film music underscore. The Saturn Awards on September 13, 2019 provided the most significant recognition for the film within the science fiction and fantasy community, with wins for Best Comic to Film Motion Picture for Aquaman itself, Best Director for James Wan, Best Supporting Actress for Amber Heard, Best Editing Actress for Kirk Mori, Best Production Design for Bill Bresky, and Best Costume Design for Kim Barrett. The Kids' Choice Awards on March 23, 2019 recognized the film's appeal to younger audiences with nominations for favorite movie and favorite movie actor for Jason Momoa. The MTV Movie and TV Awards on June 17, 2019 featured a win for Best Kiss between Jason Momoa and Amber Heard. The Teen Choice Awards on August 11 to 2019 recognized the film as Choice Sci-Fi Fantasy Movie with Jason Momoa winning Choice Sci-Fi Fantasy Movie Actor, Amber Heard winning Choice Sci-Fi Fantasy Movie Actress, and Patrick Wilson winning Choice Movie Villain. The Chinese American Film Festival on November 3, 2019 recognized Aquaman as the most popular US film in China, acknowledging its exceptional performance in that crucial market. Franchise impact and legacy. The commercial and critical success of Aquaman established the character as a major bankable star within the DC extended universe. A sequel, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, was developed with Wan returning as director along with Johnson McGoldrick as the screenwriter. The main cast, including Momoa, Wilson Hurd, Abdul Matin Tu, Park, Lundgren, Morrison, and Kidman, replied the script, and later it was the sequel released on December 22nd, 2023. In January 2020, a three-part animated miniseries based on Aquaman was announced, with one set to serve as executive producer and premiering on HBO Max. Although non canonical to the wider DC extended universe, Aquaman, King of Atlantis, was set after the events of the first film, explicitly referencing its events throughout. The series featured the voices of Cooper Andrews, Gillian Jacobs, Thomas Lennon, and Dana Snyder in the roles made famous by Momoa, Hurd, Wilson, and Dafoe, respectively. The series premiered on October 14, 2021, but was removed from HBO Max in August 2022. In early February 2019, Warner Bros. Hired Noah Gardner and Aidan Fitzgerald to write the script for a horror tinge Aquaman spin off film titled The Trench, based on one of the kingdoms introduced in the first film. The film was expected to have a smaller budget and not feature the main cast of Aquaman, with Wan and Safran producing. Safran indicated that he and Wan were approaching the Aquaman franchise similarly to the Conjuring universe, with spin offs exploring stories about the underwater kingdoms. However, in April 2021, Warner Brothers and DC announced that development on the trench was no longer moving forward, with the studios not having room for the spin off on their slate of films. Wan later revealed that The Trench had been the working title and a misdirect for a planned Black Manta film. Conclusion. Aquaman 2018 represents a significant achievement in bringing an underwater superhero adventure to the screen with unprecedented scale and ambition. Name's scripting Dewalt was rewritten from its long development journey through its production in multiple countries to its massive visual effects undertaking and ultimate box office dominance. The, fi- the film demonstrated both the challenges and potential of adapting comic book characters for modern audiences. While critical reviews were mixed regarding the film's dialogue and narrative structure, The film achieved extraordinary commercial success, becoming the highest grossing DC extended universe film at the time and one of the most profitable films of 2018. The film's success validated director James Wan's vision of creating a spectacular, fun, and entertainment focused superhero film that prioritized visual grandeur and emotional stakes over strict adherence to serious tone or narrative convention. The film's influence on the DC extended universe and superhero cinema more broadly continues to resonate, establishing the underwater kingdom of Atlantis as a compelling setting for ongoing storytelling. After appearances in two earlier films, Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice, and Justice League, Aquaman now gets his own origin story showcase in the DC Extended Universe, a story of his infancy and childhood that kicks off like a laugh free version of Ron Howard's Splash. Despite some engagingly surreal moments, heartfelt environmentalist gestures, big name supporting roles, and occasional flourishes of marine camp, this is a letdown. A laborious, slow moving, and dripping wet film, barnacle encrusted with solemnity and with a Ripley underwater production design that looks like a giant version of the kitschy items that you put in fish tanks. And Amber Heard turns in a performance as King Nereus' daughter Mera that is about as relaxed as her appearance in the famous hostage video she made with Johnny Depp to apologize for infringing Australia's rules on importing pets. Jason Momoa is back as Aquaman himself, though there's still no depiction of the presumably big moment in his life when he got those humongous tattoos. His parents got it together in 1985 when his earthling dad, Tom Curry Temuera Morrison, while tending to his lighthouse in Massachusetts, discovered the beautiful Queen Atlanta Nicole Kidman unconscious on the beach on the run from an arranged marriage in the undersea world of Atlantis. Atlanta can breathe air and does not have to be kept in the bath, and she and Tom fall in love and have a baby named Arthur after the British mythic king, and for some residual Lady of the Lake vibes. But then the terrifying Atlantis stormtroopers show up to grab Atlanta back with those water filled helmets, which for some reason Atlanta herself doesn't need. Kidman is rather well cast as Atlanta, and her willowy grace and unearthly beauty make her a plausible Atlantic monarch, although her character sadly absents herself for most of the action. Tom is now a single dad. The one really good moment in the film comes in Aquaman's lonely teen years. Later, it was rewritten, worried by a couple of older kids while on a school trip to the aquarium, and an enraged shark smashes up against the glass in an attempt to protect him. But then he becomes the amiably self satisfied Jim Bunny and happy hour enthusiast that we all know, pretty much free from the agonized self questioning that is a part of every single other superhero's psychological makeup. Aquaman doesn't do emotional vulnerability. The crisis of his adult life arrives when Aquaman's half brother, King Orm, Patrick Wilson, the entirely ridiculous and sometimes gold clad potentate below the sea, wishes to unite the various kings under his own unscrupulous rule and lead a preemptive attack on all those air brothers walking around above sea level, poisoning both land and sea. Aquaman is the only person who can stop this. His own mixed ancestry will bring a spiritually amphibious peace between humans and water dwellers. The ghastly Orm has also hired gangster mercenary David Kane, soon to be Black Manta, Yaya Abdul Martinez too, with a bag of what look like rusty doubloons are those legal tender in the US. To kill Aquaman, against whom Black Manta in any case holds a grudge for killing his pirate father in a way that was admittedly a bit ruthless. Black Manta has a point about this. The extraordinary thing about this film is that Willem Dafoe is in it, proving yet again what everyone says. Dafoe's sheer actorly integrity can ride out whatever silliness he finds himself in. When you see him under the sea, riding some sea creature like a horse and with a completely straight face, you don't laugh at him. Dolph Lundgren plays King Nereus and carries it off reasonably well. Although, like every other marine character, there is the issue of hair distractingly waving and rippling in the water like seaweed. But Wilson is just frankly dull. He is not allowed to develop an interesting character, and he suffers from the obvious comparison with Loki, Thor's adopted brother, played with relish by Tom Hiddleston as a velvety voiced villain. But then Momoa's good old boy characterization of Aquaman itself only goes so far. This is a film that never quite comes up for air. Overlong, but Momoa's charisma plus first class fishy effects keep it afloat. Why you can trust Games Radar Plus, our experts review games, movies, and tech over countless hours so you can choose the best for you. Find out more about our reviews policy extending the DC universe some 20,000 leagues under the sea. Aquaman takes place post Justice League, though you wouldn't necessarily know it. Fair enough, we'd all rather forget 2017 Super Team cut and shut. In any case, keeping things standalone seems wise in a film already stuffed to the gills. Although it's our third encounter with half man, half fish, Arthur Curry, Jason Momoa. This is partly framed as an origin story. It's also a war movie and a quest narrative, and a revenge yarn centered on the film's B villain. It's this latter strand that ignites the action as Arthur torpedoes to the rescue of a sub besieged by pirates led by tech savvy treasure hunter David Kane, Yahya Abdul Martin II. It takes two prologues for momentum to kick in, and later it was rewritten. One involving Arthur's parents, lighthouse keeper Temura Morrison, Nicole Kidman's runaway Queen of Atlantis. The other, a Harry Potter esque aquarium incident. Despite the staggered start, Act 1 is enjoyably light on its feet. Flippers, whether it's Momoa flexing muscles and eyebrows to his own guitar riff, a la Wonder Woman, the young Arthur discovering that sharks have his back, or Kidman staring down a dog. Problems arise when our hero is sucked into preparations for war that are bubbling in Atlantis, to which he is the rightful but reluctant heir. Tension is diluted by tidal waves of exposition. Visually, the water world building is full of dazzle and detail. All the bioluminescence makes it look like a submerged Tron. But none of it feels particularly lived in, a niggle not helped by the plot stopping us from one sea kingdom to the next at the speed of a drumming octopus. You'd think the setting would give the cast license to binge on the scenery like a malnourished Meg, but Momoa and Kidman aside, no one here feels larger than life. As antagonist Patrick Wilson does a few sly squints, but broad isn't his forte. The story cries out for a bigger big bad. Ocean VIPs Willem Dafoe and Dolph Lundgren, meanwhile, have little to do but ride around on a hammerhead and seahorse respectively. When all the chess pieces are finally in place, we get a climactic clash big enough to choke a kraken. Spectacular as it is, it's not always clear who's lancing laser fire at whom and which army of squid headed soldiers we should be rooting for. Horror veteran James Wan, the Saw Insidious Conjuring series, feels more at home with an assault by spiny sea devils that cuts a nightmarish swath to the earth's core. Or recalling one's Fast and Furious 7, there's the Sicily based chase set piece that serves as Aquaman standout, vaulting between rooftops. It's a scene that reinforces Amber Heard's Princess Mera not as a sidekick or tag along love interest, but as a superhero in her own right. If her and Momoa's bickering is more forced than flirty, sparks fly when they are ganging up on the bad guys. Aquaman's echoes of Marvel hits like Black Panther and the Thor series, Fantastical Kingdoms, high tech twinned with ancient tradition. Young rulers wrestling with responsibility don't do it too many favors. But compare its embrace of escapism and sense of grandeur with the posturing gloom of Batman v Superman. Dawn of Justice or Justice League's VD spectacle, and it feels like a step in the right direction for the DCEU. What's more, its hero's former joke character status is kept well at bay. For more hotly anticipated films, check out our list of the upcoming movies you don't want to miss. And while you're at it, why not take a look at the films we think are the best movies of 2018 so far. One thing that I can confidently say about Aquaman is that it tries really hard not to disappoint. I mean, this movie really goes for it. In fact, Aquaman is a lot of fun if you turn off your brain. Sure, much of the movie is just plain dumb and makes no sense, and the science is way off, and I'm not even sure if it's accurate to the comics, which I don't really care much about anyway. I grew up watching the Justice League cartoon on television, so that's really my only experience with Aquaman previous to this film outing. The whole thing is kind of a beautiful mess. But the 11-year-old version of me thinks Aquaman might be the greatest superhero movie I've ever seen. So, depending exactly on who you are, well, age wise, you are going to have a great time at the movies, or you'll be shrugging your shoulders frustrated, and you might also enjoy it. The 11-year-old version of me thinks Aquaman might be the greatest superhero movie I've ever seen. Now, we've all seen this story before. It's Aquaman's origin story as he discovers both his human side and his aqua side. Arthur Aquaman Curry is faced with a series of impossible challenges and he must learn from his failures. You've seen this kind of superhero movie many times before, so for me, all the details of the story don't matter all that much in the grand scheme of things. So let's just dive right, delve the good, the bad, and the seaworthy. The good Aquaman is pure fun. Sure, it's like nine different movies combined into one movie, like a buffet in Vegas, filling your plate with everything you love that may or may not go together. It's part Star Wars, part Avatar, part Indiana Jones, part superhero, Marvel Hero's Journey, all rolled into one. Nicole Kidman as Aquaman's mother is truly a bad ace in an opening action sequences that will leave you breathless. Tridents are the new lightsaber. Jason Momoa is just a blast to watch. I could you definitely see myself wanting to hang out with Aquaman. And there's a great joke about that in the movie. Aquaman has a good sense of humor, not like Batman, who can be a bit of a downer. One thing I believe we all seek in a blockbuster movie is spectacle and originality. Show me something I've never seen. Mainly because the stories for tempo blockbusters tend to be predictable. The epic action sequences are really what make Aquaman different than any superhero film you've ever seen. In fact, it's more like a Star Wars movie if it were all set underwater. The final third features an epic battle between several sea armies squaring off as Aquaman faces his half brother, the film's major villain. And these underwater action sequences are truly unlike anything in a film of this type. Marvel, hey, where's your Namor movie? And once you think it's gone over the top, it just goes off the rails and in all the best ways. Yes, there is an octopus playing the drums in a band underwater along with several epic battles. This is where the film really succeeds and you truly must experience it in IMAX. Nearly the entire film is in IMAX, and sometimes it feels as if you're looking right into a massive aquarium. Like a Star Wars movie if it were set underwater. The bad sum of the performances are just off, including the always reliable Willem Dafoe. It does feel like the actors are, at many times, standing in front of some green screen surrounded by people in motion capture outfits. You don't get the sense that the actors are immersed in the world, they are just props. And the science, what the script and it was not into that. The fact that aqua people can just speak underwater with their hair kind of floating about looks unnatural. It's dumb and it makes no sense, but you forgive this flaw and you get used to it. I guess in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter. Aqua people, yes, they speak underwater and it looks weird, but so what? The action sequences, while amazing, also get a bit tiresome. There are few breaks in the action for, character exploration or some kind of breather. The biggest flaw of Aquaman is the running time. The film seems to mainly be targeting a younger audience and it's 2.5 hours long. That's not a bad thing, however. Later, it was rewritten. You're not likely to find single digit aged kids with the patience to sit still for a film that feels overly long. The film does suffer from its girthy running time. I would say that any kids looking to have a good time, and they absolutely will have a great time at Aquaman, they'll lose patience by the end and they're going to just hope for the film to be over with. There's enough story here for two films. So it's a victim of perhaps being overly ambitious. Part of the problem with that Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern movie. And I'm guessing that there are still a lot of deleted scenes. Marvel, hey, where's your number movie? The seaworthiest for the seaworthiness? Well, Aquaman is seaworthy. Yes, I just did that. A horrible pun. The bottom of the barrel of dad jokes. I know. Apologies. You try writing a review about a fishman superhero and not try to work in some kind of pun. It's gonna happen accidentally, anyways. Aquaman is worth seeing if only for its original visuals and the grand vision from director James Wan. As a whole, it is a bit of a mess and ends up being an exhausting experience that would benefited from some judicious editing. Such is more, and I guess I never thought I would write this statement. Less Jason Momoa might be better, but Momoa is, aside from the special effects, the best part about the movie. Aquaman is DC Movies' latest attempt to get their cinematic universe back on track, and frankly, it almost does the trick. As for the rating I would assign to this film, the present day version of me would give it a 6 out of 10, but the 11-year-old me had a blast, and that kid will bestow an enthusiastic 8. Aquaman is the king of the seas. Just put your brain on pause and let the movie wash over you. Aquaman 2018, directed by James Wan, written by David Leslie, screenplay by Johnson McGoldrick, will be all, story by Jeff Johns and James Wan and will be all. Aquaman was created by Mort Weisinger and Paul Norris, starring James Massamo, Amber Heard, William Dafoe, Patrick Wilson, Nicole Kidman, Dolph Lundgren, Yaya Abdul Mateen II, Tamara Morrison, Randall Park, Ludi Lin. At one moment in Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, characters are running through a mutated jungle, chased by lion sized cockroaches while avoiding violent human eating plants. In another moment, multiple characters multiple their hair flowing wildly, delivering wooden dialogue that's almost as painful for them to say as it is for us to hear. That mix of positive and negative is a great representation of Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. It's a movie that tries to be everything at the expense of being anything. At times, it's goofy and exciting. At other times, it's a serious and stoic. But unlike the 2018 original, which found a strong balance between those things, this sequel struggles to blend an overly complicated narrative and lofty themes alongside the big fun action set pieces. It's not altogether terrible, but more often than not, it feels like a slog. When we last left Arthur Curry, Jason Momoa, he defeated his half brother Orm Patrick Wilson and became king of Atlantis, a vast underwater kingdom hidden from the surface world. Now, Probably probably a year or so later, Arthur and Hera Amber Heard have a child, Arthur Jr., and finding a way to be both a father and a king has become a struggle. These early scenes are among the best in this movie, allowing Momoa to be his big kid self while also opening up new possibilities for the character, that of a hero torn between two worlds. Unfortunately, that gets forgotten rather quickly. That's partially because one of Arthur's old nemesis, Black Manta, Yahya Abdul Mateen II, is searching the globe for technology that will help him fight and defeat Arthur. He soon stumbles upon a mysterious, powerful black trident that gives him ancient powers he can't quite explain. Manta and his crew instantly become more formidable than ever, and to find and defeat him, Arthur must ask his imprisoned brother for help. Starting there and moving on throughout the movie, the major plot points in Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom all seem a tad too complex and drawn out. Mantas, it was rewritten. Manta discovering the trident comes after a slightly over exploration sequence. Arthur needing Orm means he has to go against the council he's a part of and betray one of his allies. while also defeating some random bug monsters. There is also a lot, and we mean a lot, of talk about this ancient deadly energy source that plays a huge role in the story. Then, once Arthur and Orm forge an unlikely alliance, their journey takes them to several different spots, such as a whole pirate hideaway that's very cool to look at, and features Martin Short voicing an underwater Jabba the Hutt character called Kingfish, but adds almost nothing of note. Then there's the promise of the title, this mythical lost kingdom, which you'd imagine plays a major role in the movie, it being in the title after all, but is held back until very close to the end, making it feel incredibly superfluous. Elements are seeded throughout, of course, but once we get the big narrative dump explaining the Lost Kingdom and everything around it, you've basically figured it out and just want to plow through it to get to the big finale. The big finale is when finally the usually incredible director, James Van, really gets to flex his muscles. There are wonderful 360-degree camera moves, terrifying and bold angles as we discover key new locations. And as the film starts to get a little more interesting to look at, you realize something. You've been watching a James Wan movie for about 90 minutes and nothing about it has stood out visually until now. Are there cool creatures, ships, entertaining action? Sure. But all of it is overshadowed by a film's desire to take a relatively simple basic story and overstuff it for overstuffing's sake. Whether or not it's true, the climatic battle scenes simply have more cohesion and authorship to them, as if those were locked in while everything around them changed. And yet, despite all its flaws, there are plenty of moments where Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom can be very enjoyable. Jason Momoa is, as usual, really fun to watch. He and Patrick Wilson have great chemistry and a bunch of great scenes together. Amber Heard's Mera, rumored to be cut out of the film or at least cut back, has a few really big heroic moments. Characters ride giant bugs, giant seahorses. Nicole Kidman pilots a shark. Plus, there there are several attempts at making the movie about something other than Aquaman versus Black Manta, all of which give the sense the movie is going to be better than is, but then fail to deliver. One example is the political tension between underwater worlds. Another is the story's impact on the global environment. But ultimately, even the best moments get forgotten because they, like the rest of the movie, are all over the place. The Lost Common and the Lost Kingdom is certainly not the worst film in the recent DC universe, but as the follow up to one of the better ones, we expected more. It feels like a movie that was way more impacted by whatever was happening behind the scenes at DC than anyone involved would care to admit. Because if that wasn't the case, everyone involved came in with too many ideas and decided to shove them all in there. The result is a film that doesn't sink, but neither does it swim. It just kicks and kicks, hoping to rise above. But it does not. Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom is now in theaters. Want more IO9 news? Check out when to expect the latest Marvel, Star Wars, and Star Trek releases. What's next for the DC universe on film and TV? Later, it was rewritten. And everything you need to know about the future of Doctor Who. Sign up for our newsletter, subscribe, and interact with our community. Get up to date with our customized newsletters, and much more. Reviews for James Wan's Aquaman are finally in, and critics seem to argue that while the movie is a spectacle and a massive adventure, it has some flaws. Plot wise, the result is a hot, foamy mess, my friends. Bus, Diyati Dasa Setia, but a mess that washed over me like a tidal wave, a mess so wild and candy time that it's some of the most fun I've had at a theater this year, said Kalidas Vinny Manankuzo. Comic books Brandon Davis added, each of Aquaman's flaws are complemented by brilliant action sequences, stylish swagger, and an epic, massive adventure like the character himself. Aquaman is not only WBDC's best film since Wonder Woman, but it should easily be considered one of the best cinematic superhero offerings of 2018, wrote Washington Post's David Betancourt. developed the script, and later it was rewritten. The film, starring Jason Momoa in the titular role, had a score of 78% on Rotten Tomatoes. To call this movie B is an understatement. Aquaman has damn near everything. Amber Heard wears a dress made out of domesticated jellyfish. Julie Andrews voices a Lovecraftian aquatic leviathan. Nicole Kidman eats a live goldfish, presumably fake. William Dafoe spins a trident so fast it creates an impenetrable saltwater shield, wrote the Raps film critic William Bibiani. You're in for a spectacle. Aquaman also stars Amber Heard, William Dafoe. Developed Kid and later it was rewritten. Nicole Kidman and Patrick Wilson and will hit theaters on December 21. See 9 of the best reviews below. The King of the Seas has produced a much needed crowning achievement for Warner Brothers and DC Entertainment. Aquaman is not only WBDC's best film since Wonder Woman, but it should easily be considered one of the best cinematic superhero offerings of 2018. Jim Vejvoda, IGN. The glee that director James Wan clearly has playing in the world of Aquaman is infectious. He's made a movie for both types of 10-year-olds, literal kids and those who are 10 at heart. Aquaman is one hell of a popcorn movie, a fun time, and a big bet for the DC movie universe that pays off in creating an exciting new realm for future installments to hopefully explore further. One's geeky epic is chock full of ridiculous elements, and on paper, it really shouldn't work as well as it does. But it's also inherently weird and brazenly bonkers that the siren call of this giddy, otherworldly romp is hard to resist. Staggering ambition turns Aquaman into a sensory overload spectacle that riffs off hypermasculine 80s prototypes, your mom's favorite cutesy rom-coms, and sci-fi battles that immediately had me thinking of heavy metal. Gasps of astonishment will be a constant scene by scene milestone as one rockets higher and higher into a dreamland stratosphere all unto himself. It's a script and later it was rewritten. It's neon bright and wonderfully self sufficient storytelling. You could even make an argument that this is 2018's wildest cinematic blockbuster. What seems like 15 different subgenres are crammed into a submarine ready to burst. There's no lack of experimentation here, that's for certain. Aquaman is a cinematic bellybuster of the richest, cheesiest, way down your stomach comfort calories you can't help but chow down. Winnie Mancuso Collider, plot wise, the result is a hot, foamy mess, my friends, but a mess that washed over me like a tidal wave. A a mess so wild and candy colored and eager to have a bitchin' time that it's some of the most fun I've had at a theater this year, anchored by a Momoa who is having the time of his goddamn life, and director James Wan's genuinely gorgeous vision of an entire universe under the ocean waves. To put it much more succinctly, do I recommend the experience? Yeah, Brandon Davis, comic book. Heavy exposition crowds Aquaman through much of its first half. Awkwardly nuanced attempts at somewhat cartoonish humor are also present, making some of the water here a little unclear, often seeming as though certain bits of Aquaman were unsure which tone it wanted to commit to. However, each of Aquaman's flaws are complemented by brilliant action sequences, stylish swagger, and an epic massive adventure like the character himself. Aquaman is a flawed but thoroughly entertaining adventure movie and certainly one of the strongest installments so far in the inconsistent worlds of DC franchise. Aquaman is a fun, silly and perfectly pitched blockbuster. It's been a rocky road for DC, but once movie defies expectation and proves that Justice League wasn't the final nail in the coffin for Warner's project. There's still some potential in the worlds of DC, and if the excellent trailer for 2019's Shazam is anything to go by, a lot of fun to be had too. After Justice League failed to maintain the momentum established by director Patty Jenkins' Wonder Woman, James Wan delivers a swashbuckling adventure story that kicks things back into gear for DC's cinematic universe. I know the word fun can be seen as a negative in these reviews, but it really is a great way to describe Aquaman. Sure, it drags on a little, but it's an entertaining, thought provoking film that does a great job leaning into the character's fantasy elements. Yes, the world is in danger by the end of the film, but Aquaman focuses on societal changes and character growth instead of overemphasizing the action. After seeing this movie, no one will be able to make fun of the titular character for riding around on giant seahorses. Instead, everyone will know just how badass and intimidating Aquaman really is. With Titanic's this the massive ship, Aquaman sails through colorful, high-stakes adventure that plunges audiences into a vibrant, sci-fi-inspired deep-sea world. While connected to the overarching DCEU, Aquaman wisely branches off into its own unique corner of this universe and fills in its undersea world with eye-popping creatures, sleek spacecrafts, and rarely seen environments that reward a viewing on the biggest screen possible. Even with its flaws and struggles with originality, Aquaman is reminiscent of the early Marvel movies in its storytelling, best when taking wild swings instead of being an earnest superhero jam. He's the laughing stock of the DC Comics extended universe, and Aquaman solo movie almost gets by on razzle dazzle, since that's all it has up its waterlogged sleeve. Not that this underwater superhero knows much from sleeves. A shirtless but never humorless Jason Momoa plays Arthur Curry, aka Aquaman, as if he were born to wield a trident. Yes, he looks nothing like the platinum blondie of the comic books. His half brother, King Orm, Patrick Wilson, in for the fun of it, is the one taking on that visage, complete with a dash of Draco Malfoy villainy. I am the ocean master, says Orm seriously and hilariously. Okay then, but wait, no jumping ahead. Aquaman is directed by James Wan, the horror meister behind Saw and The Conjuring, who's showing off his lighter side. He gives the 143-minute film a propulsive drive, which comes in handy when the light dawns that the plot is going nowhere. The movie is an origin story from co-writers David L. Leslie, Johnson, Mickey, Goldrake, and Will Beall that starts out with a man having sex with a fish. That's right, a human lighthouse keeper, Thomas Temuera Morrison. Working out of Amnesty Bay, Massachusetts, falls hard for Atlanta, the queen of the underwater kingdom of Atlantis, when she washes up on shore. Nicole Kidman, of all overqualified actresses, plays her. And before long, the interspecies couple is raising a son, Arthur, until mom has to go back to sea on family business. As for the kid, he's left to wonder whether he belongs to the surf or the turf. Yeah, it sounds idiotic, and often it is. The tin aired dialogue doesn't help. But Momoa, who swam in and out of extended cameos in the DCU's Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice, and Justice League, proves he's got the muscle and the magnetism to take on a whole franchise. Can Arthur find his place under the sea where titans do battle and saddle up on great white sharks? That image alone will make you smile. He has waterlogged help in his mother's best friend, Royal Counsel Volker Willem Dafoe, of all overqualified actors, who teaches Arthur how to literally swim with the fishes. There's trouble down under. King Orm wants to declare war on the surface, where his landlubber Habro lives, for polluting the seven seas. He's got a point. The downside is that the movie takes forever to get there, dawdling over a cooked up love story between Arthur and a high spirited hottie named Mera, Amber Heard, an ocean princess whose daddy, King Nereus, Dolph Lundgren, he's back, wants to set her up with King Orm. The soaked regent is willing. She, however, is not. Instead, Mera and Arthur, flirting to the limits of PG-13 propriety, take off a tour of the seven undersea kingdoms. There's also a stop in the Sahara to find the golden trident that will prove Arthur is the real king. If true to Arthurian legend, he can pull the sword from the stone or something like that. Got it? Yeah, we didn't think so. The travelogue stuff, coral colored pretty as it is, can only take you so far before boredom sets it. Thankfully, one sets things right just in time. Finally, a massive battle rages. Sea creatures raise watery hell. Warriors clash, and Arthur and Orm fight to prove which one Mommy loved best and forge a peace that might last until the inevitable sequel. Aquaman is a mess of clashing tones and shameless silliness, but a relief after all the franchise's recent superhero gloom. Any budget busting epic that finds time to show us an octopus playing bongos gets a pass in our book. After suffering through the bloated, stale Justice League late last year, I vowed never to watch another DCEU film again. I'm sad to report, dear readers, that my morbid curiosity got the best of me with Aquaman. Let me start with the pros, as few and far between as they were. Generally speaking, the action sequences were fairly fun and exciting. The unnerving and overpowering scene with the trench was a major highlight. I really appreciate how brave deviation from the same storm stormtrooper-esque Atlantean soldiers made for a haunting scene. I wish, however, that the film had explored more underwater creatures. I guess I also like that one shot where the octopus was playing the drum. Unfortunately, the DCU failed to redeem itself in any significant way. Aquaman commits all seven deadly sins of superhero movies. Too much slow mo is a common flaw in most DCU films. They tend to favor quickie images over well constructed, clever sequences. The overuse of slow mo augments this point, as practically none of it services the story or even the action. Predictable dialogue. Have you ever heard a line like, "You're worthy"? How about expositional dialogue where a character talks about how their parents met? What about legend has it? Forget everything you think you know or some other variation. There's no technical movie term at play here. This is called bad writing. Dolgo is the cornerstone of filmmaking and character building. And this movie lacks a strong foundation. The screenwriters of Aquaman are Hollywood professionals. So why am I able to predict every other line? Hero not acting heroic. There's about 6 seconds in this movie where Aquaman saves civilians. Most of the time, he's leaving people to drown, killing his own people, or waging wars without a care in the world. Aquaman doesn't feel like the lion hearted superhuman he should. He's mostly a blunt instrument with powers he doesn't deserve. Final battle is a CGI filled, oversaturated, anticlimactic mess, Nuff said. Tries to. For funny, I'm sorry, but I just don't think Jason Momoa running around screaming badass is that entertaining. DC really tried their hand at making a funny, relatable hero who subverts his powers with comedy. Unfortunately, Aquaman isn't charming enough to be mistaken for Tom Holland in Spider Man Homecoming, nor is his performance hilarious or absurd enough to be Chris Hemsworth in Thor Ragnarok. Momoa ends up looking like a wannabe Marvel character, but without the likability or strong script. Bloated entire scenes of this film should have been left on the cutting room floor. The movie mostly plays as a political drama in a society we barely understand or care about. Yes, most superhero movies are drawn out for about 15 minutes longer than necessary, but nearly 45 minutes of this film felt extraneous. The dinosaur world where Aquaman finds the trident, all the flashbacks to Aquaman as a child, etc. Hero isn't the most interesting character in their own story, even in great movies. Black Panther, this can be a regular occurrence. Mera Amber Heard had massive potential. As an Atlantean princess equipped with water manipulation powers who betrays her own father, Mera could have carried this movie by herself. Instead, the she's held back by weak writing, is little more than an exposition machine, and falls in love with the least intelligent character in the movie. What a waste. I wanted to keep the seven deadly sins joke intact, but this movie has well over seven flaws. The classic multiple villains because neither are interesting mechanic is at play here. Develop the script as other ageless narration to open and close the film and over exposition trends. I understand that these critiques apply to most superhero movies, but in the face of some great films these last few years that show some evolution in the genre, Avengers, Infinity War, Black Panther, Spider Man, Homecoming, Thor, Ragnarok, Wonder Woman, especially Logan. The falls in Aquaman feel particularly egregious. Do yourself a favor and watch any of those films instead of this one. In today's post, we are going to dive into Aquaman with my Aquaman movie review. Just so you are aware, all my movie reviews are spoiler free. You are going to get my honest reactions to Aquaman without reading anything that will ruin your movie going experience. In this post, you will learn about the excellent casting, wonderful art, learn about special effects, and the action and story elements that make Aquaman a really fun movie. So, if you are wondering if Aquaman is worth seeing in theaters or purchasing, you will love this review. Let's get right into my Aquaman movie review. I liked Aquaman a lot. The movie wasn't the best superhero movie, but it was pretty good. I go and see just about every comic book movie that's made. You'll notice that here. The Marvel movies have been so much better than the DC movies, and it's not even close. Wonder Woman was an outstanding movie and by far the best DC movie to date. Aquaman is easily the second best of the rebooted DC universe behind Wonder Woman. Some of you might be saying, hey, that's a pretty low bar. To those people, let me just say this is a very enjoyable movie and you will like it. Jason Momoa as Arthur Curry Aquaman is just awesome and a perfect casting choice. I like anything he does. Momoa brings real toughness to the role with a splash of childlike fun and humor. Amber Heard does a fantastic job as Mera. Mera is a very capable character and does a great job helping guide Aquaman to becoming more than a hero. Nicole Kidman and Temuera Morrison fantastic as Aquaman's parents. Nicole Kidman also gets to show off some ass kicking skills. Love it. There's also Dolph Lundgren, Patrick Wilson, Yaya Abdul Mateen too, and Willem Dafoe delivering great performances and rounding out this really great cast. Aquaman does a good job of setting up the backstory of Arthur Curry and laying down what's at stake for the future in the underwater kingdom of Atlantis. The visuals and special effects are just outstanding in this movie. Some of the backstory parts drag on for a little bit, slowing down the pace of the movie. The backstory elements are totally necessary to get the viewer invested in the characters, though Aquaman does make you wish for more underwater action scenes, only because they are so awesome. The special effects of all the underwater scenes are outstanding. The fights are really fun on both land and underwater. Jason Momoa shows off both his power and charisma in each action scene. I really enjoyed the action scenes with Amber Heard and Nicole Kidman too. They totally prove their characters are forces to be reckoned with in the movie. I really felt the fight scenes in the depths of the ocean were a major highlight in the film. They are just so incredibly well done. If you're into comic book movies or like DC characters, definitely go see Aquaman. The movie is fun and funny, and the action and special effects are outstanding. Definitely go check Aquaman out. I hope you enjoyed my Aquaman movie review. Now I would like to hear from you. What were your thoughts on Aquaman? What did you think of my Aquaman movie review? Is there anything you think I left out? Deflation. Please note that some of the links in this post may contain affiliate links and at no additional cost to you. I earn a commission if you choose to make a purchase. I only recommend products and companies that I use, and the income goes to supporting this site. What is that we hear from deep within the digital ocean? Is it the protracted, bubbling whinge of superheroes in their death agonies? Are we witnessing a Götterdämmerung of the superhero movie as a bunch of B to A-listers dressed sheepishly in their tattered spandex crouch on the green screen soundstage, furtively making calls to their agents between takes and wondering if they shouldn't have held out against superhero films like Julia Roberts and Leonardo DiCaprio? I have often enjoyed superhero films with all their surrealism, melodrama, and comedy, and I actually like the Marvels with Brie Larson. But there is no doubt about it. The first Aquaman theater where the first Aqua movie was enough trouble, with Jason Momoa smirking his way through the story of Aquaman's undersea travails as if guesting on a lager ad. Now we have a terrible sequel, again directed by James Wan, reportedly the final film in the DC Extended Universe. The Aquaman franchise is just flatlining, floating through the dreary depths like the kind of discarded plastic bag which is going to choke the last remaining Wakita porpoise. Once again, Jason Momoa is back with his blandly self admiring Aquaman in the supposedly comedy light mode borrowed from Taika Waititi's Thor films. The alpha superhero with a cheerfully laid back home life. Aquaman is always hanging out with his dad Tom, Temuera Morrison, drinking conspicuously branded cans of beer from the fridge. Aquaman is now in charge of Atlantis and he has imprisoned his wicked half brother Om, the guy whose awful plans for amphibious domination created such non drama in the previous film. It's a role which Patrick Wilson reprises with an air of icily affronted dignity, which is only partly intentional. The Queen of Atlantis is Mira, played by Amber Heard, an actor whose steadfastness in standing up to online male bullies has to be respected. And Dolph Lundgren is once again Aquaman's father in law, Nereus. Willem Dafoe, who kept his self respect in the last film playing Aquaman's mentor Volko, doesn't appear. But Nicole Kidman shows up again, taking the DC shilling as Aquaman's willowy and distraught mother Atlanta. The deal this time around is that Aquaman has become a dad of all the adorable things. There are loads of shots of Momoa with a real baby, Dexactip, and later it rewritten changing nappies and getting weed in the face by the Cheshire little tyke. The trope of the tough guy spotting the baby papoose is very often used as a tired relatability shortcut by Hollywood. So it proves again here. Now Aquaman has to face the second banana villain from the previous film, here upgraded to premier banana status. This is Black Manta, played by Yahya Abdul Mateen II, who has among his entourage a bullied marine biologist called Dr. Shin, a role in which the gifted comic actor Randall Park is entirely wasted. Will this titanic confrontation involve a rapprochement between Aquaman and his troubled semi sibling Om? Who knows? Or more to the point, cares? At the end of 124 long minutes, both film and audience are deeply immersed in something, but it isn't seawater. Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom was released on the 21st of December in the UK, the 20th of December in the US, and the 26th of December in Australia.